Cincinnati, where the LA Dodgers try to stay in the playoff hunt, while the Reds are looking at their second division title in 3 years.
And Greg, the smiles in Cincinnati extend all across the Buckeye State and beyond, as on this day in late September, the Reds have whittled their magic number for clinching a division title all the way down to 1. Fox Saturday Baseball welcomes you to Great American Ballpark. Postseason implications abound as the Cincinnati Reds play host to the Los Angeles Dodgers. 11 games left in the 2012 regular season. Cincinnati wins and they clinch the Central for the Dodgers. 2-game deficit in the second wildcard race with 3 teams left to climb over. With that, we welcome you inside Great American Ballpark. Matt Vasgersian. The Reds and Dodgers, 2 teams seemingly on different ends of the postseason spectrum. For the Reds, a win and they can concentrate on the pleasant things like best overall record in the National League and lining up their rotation for a division series. For the Dodgers, as I welcome Tim McCarver to the telecast, they're playing with a different kind of urgency this afternoon.
Well, it may be the magic number may be 1 for the Cincinnati Reds, but for the Dodgers, it's a magic letter, and it's W. They've got to win for the most part. They've got to run the board. I guess the next 11 games for the Dodgers will be like baseball's version of sudden death. They've almost got to win every game.
And baseball's version of sudden death for the Dodgers is off to a good start. A win in the series opener last night, and once again, it was one of their leaders, Matt Kemp, delivering the big hit.
He is the guy that they absolutely depend on. He's done it twice this week. On Wednesday night, after the Dodgers blew a 6-run lead in Washington, the MVP of the Dodgers beat the Washington Nationals 7-6. Last night he drives in 2 and they win that game by 2.
It is a pricey collection of Hollywood superstars that hope the sun hasn't quite set on their 2012 postseason chances. Their afternoon in the Queen City is about to begin. Lineups in the opening pitch. Dodgers and Reds coming up next. Room only crowd anticipated, perhaps in hopes of watching the Reds wave a flag tonight. Let's start by getting you the Taco Bell batting order for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. Mark Ellis, just 3 of his last 17. He'll lead off this afternoon. 11 combined all-star appearances between Ethier, Kemp, Gonzalez, and Ramirez. Luis Cruz has been terrific for LA. He's hit in 7 straight. Juan Rivera gets the starting left field batting number 7. The catcher A.J. Ellis and today's starter Stephen Fife rounded out for Don Mattingly. And on the mound for the Reds, 24-year-old right-hander Matt Latos making a career-high tying 31st start of the year this afternoon.
One of the horses, Matt, in the National League, and certainly one of the horses, probably your number 2 starter when the Reds reach the playoff. That first point, remember the Cougars. Matt Latos telling us yesterday that the last time he remembers clinching anything was in high school. He went to Coconut High School, and the name of their team was the Cougars. So
I'm glad you clarified that, by the way.
Matt will try to remember the Cougars this afternoon. Overpowering stuff for that good fastball, 2-seam, 4-seam, curveball, and slider. The change-up a work in progress.
Usually remember the Cougars after the game, but for Matt Latos, remember them this afternoon. The opening pitch is brought to you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. Cincinnati Reds are doing some scoreboard watching this afternoon, and we'll be doing it along with them as the Cubs and Cardinals are late in the stages of a tie ball game. One that may determine the fate in the National League Central regardless of what happens on the field this afternoon. Any combination of a Cardinals loss or a Reds win, that being the magic number of 1. And there you have it. 4-4 last of the 9th means the Reds are NL Central champs. Underway this afternoon, and Matt Latos' first pitch today is in for strike 1 to Mark Ellis. Well, the LA Dodgers with a big win yesterday, Tim, in the series opener. You documented when we went on the air how it's really almost a win-out mentality for LA, as that fly ball is handled in the right field corner by Jay Bruce. We'll talk about the Dodgers in a moment. First, we take a look at the Reds defensively. Their defensive alignment brought to you by Chevrolet. Only the Diamondbacks and Braves have a higher team fielding percentage than Cincinnati. Pay particular attention to the Gold Glovers on the right side of the infield. Brandon Phillips has won 3. Joey Votto won the award in 2011. One quick out for Matt Latos, and that'll bring up the right fielder, Andre Ethier. The two-time All-Star starts play this afternoon with the National League's highest batting average against right-handed pitching, and someone on whom the Dodger lineup will rely this afternoon.
Andre with his 1,000th hit on September 4th, and that was a home run. And it gives you an idea of how difficult it is to get 3,000 hits. Here's Andre Ethier, who'll turn 30 next April, and just got his 1,000th hit, and he's a .291 lifetime hitter.
A ball and a strike for Matt Latos, and it's 1-2 to Andre Ethier now. Matt Kemp waiting on deck next. Again, he delivered the big hit yesterday that allowed the Dodgers to sneak out of here with an extra innings series opening victory on the road. Latos has his sign from Deanna Navarro, and a swing and a miss by Andre Ethier. 2 quick outs start the afternoon for the Reds right-hander. So 2 out, bases empty for Matt Kemp, who really enjoys trips to Cincinnati. Career versus the Reds, a .361 batting average, his highest number against any National League opponent. In his last 9 games against the Reds, he's hit 5 home runs and really likes to swing the bat here at this ballpark, as so many do.
Matt playing with 1.5 arms. That left shoulder of his is really hurt and will not heal until this winter. It's doubtful that he'll have surgery on it, but after that collision with the center field wall in Colorado the last time the Dodgers played there, it has really been tough for him to get on top of high fastballs.
And it's been a problem for Matt in terms of how to handle that, in that he knows he's the face of the team despite all the big acquisitions. This is Matt Kemp's roster, and let's take you back to August 28th at full speed into that outfield fence in Denver. In fact, he had hit that outfield wall the night before, and in his first 14 games after the injury has hit about $1.25. They're the number since August 28th altogether, and a foul ball at the plate, and it's 0-2 to remain Matt Kemp. But back to how Kemp has handled it, you know, he's been asked by every reporter in and out of Los Angeles, are you still hurt? Are you still feeling the effects of that collision? He doesn't want to be a guy that makes excuses. Yet I think it's clear to most of us that that injury has played a role in the down numbers in September.
No question.
And it's a 1-2-3 first for Matt Latos. Underway in Cincinnati. Dodgers 0, the Reds coming to bat. Filling out the lineup card in the absence of Dusty Baker this afternoon. Dusty has remained in Chicago after being diagnosed with an irregular heartbeat. He hopes to rejoin the team soon. We certainly wish Dusty the speediest of recoveries. Let's take a look at the Reds Taco Bell starting lineup today. Sometimes you got to give Moss. Brandon Phillips just 6 for his last 44, yet he leads off as per usual at second base today. Ex-Dodger Xavier Paul in left field batting number 2. Votto, Frazier, and Bruce. Plenty of thunder 3 through 5. Chris Heisey, Deanna Navarro, another ex-Dodger, catches and bats 7. Zach Cozart and Matt Latos rounded out for Cincinnati today. So Brandon Phillips set to lead off the Reds half of the first. 17 home runs for the two-time All-Star in 2012. As we get our first look at 25-year-old right-hander Stephen Fife making his 5th career big league start this afternoon. Phillips, Paul, and Votto for Cincinnati.
One of the few starting pitchers that starts the game from the stretch. Kind of a revised windup that Stephen Fife has. Good curveball. Don Mattingly's saying he doesn't blow you away, but the more you see him, the better he becomes.
won 11 games at AAA Albuquerque this year. And it was in Albuquerque that Stevens spent most of 2012. There's a soft liner out to right center that Kemp handles. And there's one away as we learn a little bit more about the 25-year-old rookie right-hander.
One of the few major league pitchers from Idaho. He's from Boise, Idaho. His 5th major league start, 0-1 on his young season. Came up on July 17th. That was his first major league start. Very deceptive stuff. And there's that quote by Don Mattingly: the more you see, the more you're impressed.
Originally a 3rd-round draft selection in 2008 by the Red Sox, came to the Dodgers in a 4-player deal last July. One gone for him here, and that'll bring up Xavier Paul. The left-handed hitting ex-Dodger at 319 to start play this afternoon, getting a start in left field. Fife, as Tim has mentioned, out of the stretch. And it's a 2-0 count to Xavier Paul.
Usually when a starting pitcher throws from the stretch, he's had experience as a reliever, but that's not necessarily the case with Fife. He's a big guy. He doesn't look that big, but he's 6'3", 220 pounds. Some of the sizes of these major league pitchers now, as opposed to even 20 years ago, markedly different.
He has the frame of a player, and Stephen Fife was this, that had football aspirations as an amateur. He was quite a standout quarterback in high school. Wanted to follow his father's footsteps and sling the pigskin around. His dad was a standout punter and tight end at the University of Hawaii. Ball 4 issued to Xavier Paul. Take a look at the defense behind Stephen Fife this afternoon. Dodgers catch it at a .984 fielding percentage, tied for 5th best in the National League. Matt Kemp, couple of Gold Gloves in center. Adrian Gonzalez, 3 of them at first. And Mark Ellis, the 2nd best career fielding percentage at his position in baseball history. 1 out, 1 on for Joey Votto, the 2010 National League MVP, starting play at 341 today. Well, the Reds stayed afloat despite the fact that Joey Votto missed a significant chunk of time after 2 separate knee procedures. Almost 2 complete months, a pair of arthroscopic surgeries on his left knee, during which time, Tim, a lot of naysayers said, oh, there goes the Cincinnati Reds 2012 season.
They played better without him than with him. They don't want to test that too often, however.
It was the supporting cast that really made up for the lost offense when Votto was on the mend. And it gave the Reds great flexibility in that they didn't feel at any point like they had to rush him back to active duty to keep up with the rest of the division.
Plus, with Votto out, the Reds found out just how good Todd Frazier is. Todd Frazier moving to first base. He's playing third base today. But he can play one of a number of positions, including the outfield, and maybe the National League Rookie of the Year.
Counts 0-2 to Joey Votto. And that one bounces away from Ellis. On his way to second is Paul. A runner in scoring position here in the home first.
That's probably going to go as a wild pitch because it bounced in front of Ellis, but normally catchers suck those balls up because you anticipate that breaking ball being in the dirt. That's a ball that Ellis normally would handle.
So Paul at second on what scored as a wild pitch. Votto with a chance to knock in an early run this afternoon. He was 1 for 4 in the opener yesterday. Out in front, a swing and a miss. He wants to talk to home plate umpire Mike Muchlinski about that. And they're saying he fouled it off now. That's a foul ball indeed, so it stays at 1-2 on Joey Votto.
Now Don Mattingly has his arms spread down in the dugout, and here comes Don to argue that play. I think
that is no foul ball.
I didn't think so. Looked like Votto thought he may have heard it hit something. Now the umpires are going to converge. Joe West, the crew chief. But I don't know how another umpire could make that call, because he can't hear what the home plate umpire can hear. And that's how that looked like a swing and a miss.
You know, I think that was just such a heavy breaking ball, and A.J. Ellis boxed it. And now, in fact, they hold up the strikeout call. 2 gone in the inning. Gives us the chance to check in with Greg Amsinger back at the MLB Network studios for a DirecTV game break. Greg, what do you have?
Hey, Matt, let's go off to Wrigley Field to Jesus, who's been a hero lately for the Cubbies. Chance to win it in the 9th, tracked down by Chambers. 4-4. Bonus baseball coming your way on the north side. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to get DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV. Matty V, Tim, back to you.
And with a lot on the line, Greg, we'll be keeping our eyes on the Cubs and Cardinals today. Again, any combination of a Cardinals loss and or a Cincinnati win, and the division belongs to the Reds. A magic number of 1 as it stands at this hour. So a 2-out base runner in scoring position now for the aforementioned Todd Frazier. Frazier got the night off in the opener yesterday. Scott Rowland made the start at first. Rowland at third, rather. Votto at first. And here we have Frazier in game 2 of the series today. Two balls and no strikes. The count to Todd Frazier. Tim's already mentioned Todd Frazier's very legitimate candidacy in the National League Rookie of the Year race. Seen to the fact that he's batting cleanup today for just the 2nd time in his career. Frazier sends a drive out to deep center. Kemp running out of room at the track. He makes the catch just before the wall. A runner left stranded in the home first. On to the 2nd in Cincinnati. Dodgers and Reds are scoreless. Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. And by DirecTV, now NFL Sunday tickets included at no extra charge when you switch. Back with Tim McCarver and Ken Rosenthal, from whom we are yet to hear. We'll get to Kenny at some point soon. Matt Vasgersian. A lot on the line here in this National League. A showdown. 11 games left in the regular season schedule. The Dodgers on the outside looking in, 2 games back of the final wild card spot in the National League. The Reds with a magic number of 1. Stories that will update throughout the afternoon. Matt Latos back to work. He gets Adrian Gonzalez, Hanley Ramirez, and Luis Cruz in the Dodgers' 2nd. Counts a ball and a strike to Adrian Gonzalez. So much has been made of the Dodgers' Howard disappearance. Something nobody thought would be discussed after the acquisitions of Hanley Ramirez, Adrian Gonzalez, Shane Victorino. And there's a base hit for Gonzalez to lead off the 2nd. It's a hard one to explain as to how the Dodgers were more productive offensively early on with the likes of Tony Gwynn Jr., Jerry Sands and company. Through July 24th, they had a .541 winning percentage. They were scoring more runs after the Hanley Ramirez acquisition, but since August 25th, and after that big blockbuster trade in particular, just 10-15, scoring just over 3 runs a night. A
good example of that is Adrian Gonzalez at first base has gone 112 plate appearances with 1 home run. 112.
And that was that mighty home run.
First at bat. And none since. Not a whiff.
Nothing in 1, the count to Hanley Ramirez as we check in for the first time today with Ken Rosenthal. Ken, it's been a very mysterious story. What's happened to that Dodger lineup?
Matt, no one seems to know. Now, one theory is that they brought in so many new players at once, they've been unable to achieve the proper chemistry. But some club officials don't buy that at all, and they say, hey, this team essentially transformed itself from David into Goliath in a month's time. That raised expectations, caused players to press. Then you add injuries to that as well, and you start to have a bit of a problem.
And I think it's been an exceedingly difficult thing for manager Don Mattingly to try to navigate the different personalities in and out of the clubhouse, the different combinations, the different strategies he can employ as the guy that rounds out that lineup every night. A ball and 2 strikes is the count to Hanley Ramirez. With this month in particular, the offensive frustrations have really been felt. Last in runs scored in the month of September. Tough to make up ground in that wild card race when they're just not scoring.
Plus, they have a lethargic lineup. With few exceptions, they don't run the bases real well, nor are they fast on the bases. Example, a couple of games ago that we did, Hanley Ramirez driving in the go-ahead run against the San Francisco Giants and was thrown out at third with nobody out. Their situational base running has not been good all year for the Dodgers.
Still a ball and 2 strikes to Hanley Ramirez. Some of the speed that they have, Shane Victorino, perhaps their speediest or one of their speediest, not available today for a second straight night. Jammed his wrist in D.C. to start the road trip. Ramirez bounces to short. Kozark to Phillips. The relay back to Votto is not in time.
Normally a ball that takes a couple of hops to get to the shortstop. When he has to move to the right like that, you're not going to double up a guy like Ramirez. So they made sure of one, and a fielder's choice for Ramirez. One thing the Reds can do, well, among many things, they can catch the ball better than any team in the major leagues, particularly in the outfield. They have one of the best defensive outfielders or outfields that I've ever seen, Matt.
Here's Luis Cruz now with 1 out and 1 on. The Dodger third baseman this afternoon has hit safely in 7 straight and 14 of his last 15. As much of the media attention, Tim, goes to the pricey veterans that were either imported to LA this year or who were already on the roster. A guy like Luis Cruz seems to have slipped through the cracks, and that's kind of a shame because he's been perhaps their most productive player down the stretch.
Over the last 6 weeks, batting .341. Great story. 11 years in the minor leagues.
Dad, who has had to really earn everything he's achieved this year.
Yeah, his dad from Mexico, good friends with Fernando Valenzuela.
And a fly ball out to right for Jake Bruce. There are 2 gone in the second. Reminder, tonight college football returns to Fox. Aaron Andrews, Eddie George, and Joey Harrington get you ready for kickoff with the Ford Fox College Saturday pregame show. Then 2 unbeatens clash. 15th ranked K-State Wildcats in Norman, Oklahoma to take on the number 6 Sooners in the Big 12 opener for both teams. Coverage of Fox College football presented by Geico tonight, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Two out with a runner aboard now for Juan Rivera. The Dodger left fielder this afternoon made his first start yesterday in the series opener in almost 2 weeks and had an 0-for-2 opener last night. Rivera out there in the absence of Shane Victorino. With Kemp moving to center, Rivera gets the opportunity in left field to start the series.
I think if I were a Cincinnati Reds fan and I were at the game, I would want the Cardinals to win at Wrigley Field. So I could root for this team to win here in Cincinnati so I could see them clinch at home.
I mean, you tell me from a player standpoint, because I know how I feel about it as a fan. I'd agree. I as a fan would want team to win to clinch as opposed to the math just running out. And the pursuers lose out instead of your club winning. The players must feel the same way.
I think so. I think so, particularly in this situation where they have 11 days left to play, including this game. Now, That would change, however, if you're down to the last 2 days of the season and the magic number is 1. Then you would be pulling very, very hard for the Cardinals to lose at Wrigley Field.
Take it however you can get it.
Right. Right.
Cardinals and Cubs are in a 4-4 tie at Wrigley Field. That game's in the top of the 10th. Greg Amsinger will keep us posted as to the developments at Wrigley throughout the contest today. Shadows starting to set in here at Cincinnati. Might be about the only thing that pitchers can claim would help them in this ballpark.
That's true. That is true.
A place that has been league-wide renowned for its home run launching abilities. A ball and a strike to count to Juan Rivera. On a nice convenient room service hop for Todd Frazier, the Dodgers are done in the second. An inning and a half of scoreless baseball in Cincinnati. Card is sponsored by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. Back with Tim McCarver and Ken Rosenthal. Matt Vasgersian in Cincinnati. Standing room only at the ballpark this afternoon. Fans responding down the stretch, sensing the clinch is imminent. A magic number of 1 at the start of play this afternoon. Jay Bruce, Chris Heisey, and Deoner Navarro here in the second against Stephen Fife. This is an up to the second update. The Cardinals have pushed across a run in the 10th at Wrigley. We'll check in with Greg Amsinger in just a moment to see how it happened. It looked like the Cubs were going to come back and upend the Cardinals and perhaps take a little bit of the drama away from this one, Tim. But
yeah,
they get the home run from Carlos Beltran to tie it, and now they've taken the lead in the 10th.
The Cardinals have not had good luck at Wrigley Field this year, winning only 2 of 7 games going into this afternoon's game.
1-1 is the count to Jay Bruce. It's 2 balls and a strike. Two-time All-Star with 33 home runs. Guy on deck, not known for his power as much as the big left-hander. Bruce with 33 home runs, 96 runs batted in. Both numbers lead the Reds. Both numbers rank among the top 5 among National Leaguers. Numbers that have been on the steady incline ever since breaking into the big leagues. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Stephen Fife. Missed with an off-speed pitch, and it's a full count, 3-2.
We talked about that defensive outfield for the Reds. They have 3 center fielders that they could play. Jay Bruce, Chris Heisey, Drew Stubbs. How many teams can say that?
And a swing and a miss, and Stephen Fife's second strikeout of the afternoon. Greg Amsinger, a DirecTV game break. How'd the Cardinals score that run?
Well, Matty, this is how it looked. John Jay 0 for 5 in the game until this. Down the line, past Rizzo, into the corner. It's going to play Carpenter and give the Redbirds a 5-4 lead. That is where we stand right now, going to the bottom of the 10th. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to get DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV. And, Matty, I also want to throw this in there. Yadier Molina left the game, made at bat with lower back spasms. Back to you.
A guy that the Cardinals can ill afford to be without at a very crucial stretch. St. Louis 11 back in the division. And for the Cardinals, it's really a matter of that last wild card spot that they're trying to hang on to in the National League. 1 gone here for Chris Heisey. Cincinnati at 91-60, as you saw a moment ago, and Heisey is plunked by the pitch.
No way for Chris Heisey to get out of the way of this. It hit him in the upper thigh.
I guess as pitches to be hit go, something like that. Breaking ball upper thigh. You're going to pick your poison there. I'm not going to say I'd like to be hit by any pitch, but if you had one to choose, that might be one you take out of the hopper.
Either there or your keister.
1 out and 1 on for Dioner Navarro. We were talking about the Reds' overall record, 91-60. And that's a number that may settle in as one of the team's best ever finishes, depending on how these final games shake out. But in terms of the postseason race, Cincinnati started play with 91 wins. So did the Washington Nationals. And even though both teams appear headed into October, nobody's really sure how these matchups will shake out. As we check back in with Ken Rosenthal. Ken, it's too soon in the game to do any of that math and figure out who's playing where.
That's true, Matt, but there is real incentive for the Reds to overtake the Nationals for the best record in the National League. If they do that, one, they avoid the Giants in the first round. Also, they would get the wild card winner and gain potential home field advantage for the NLCS. And avoiding the Giants and playing the wild card winner, well, that's key. Because remember, the wild card winner will burn its best pitcher in the wild card game, that one-game knockout. They might even burn 2 of their best pitchers if there is a tiebreaker preceding the wild card game. So, yes, getting that best record in the NL is something the Reds will want to do.
Be careful what you wish for. However, Atlanta is playing about as well as anybody right now, and they're pitching with Chris Medlin in particular. They're very deep in their starting pitchers. If they win the wild card game against whomever they face, then they would be a very, very tough opponent.
Navarro sends a fly ball into the opposite field for Juan Rivera. In the Sun field, he's able to make the catch for out number 2. Without the addition of that second wild card, Tim, I don't know that the National League race would be nearly as compelling as it's turned into. Cincinnati with an 11-game lead, the Giants with a 10-game lead, the Nationals a 5.5-game lead, and Atlanta has a big lead for the first wild card spot. But it's that second spot that's kept the Brewers, the Dodgers, the Phillies, and I suppose mathematically still the Pirates involved in the race.
It's been as interesting as baseball thought it would be.
2 gone now for Zach Cozart.
I mean, only 6 weeks ago, the Dodgers were in first place. And here they are 10 games behind the San Francisco Giants. Giants have won 5 in a row. One of the hottest teams in baseball. And scoring more runs and hitting better than they did with Melky Cabrera before the suspension.
Yeah, none of that makes sense about what's happening there. I mean, that's supposed to be a team that wins 2-1 every night with that great pitching staff.
Yeah.
Their lineup's been clicking since the All-Star break. They've been pitching to a higher ERA than anybody thought would ever happen with that group of starters.
Barry Zito 13-8.
Go figure.
Lincecum pitching much better.
Zach Cozart has a base hit. Boy, a great sign for the Reds. After missing 14 games with an oblique strain, came back to start last night. And Zach Cozart has a base hit in his first try this afternoon.
Hanging breaking ball. Good hitting by Cozart. There is such balance along the Cincinnati lineup. Their players perhaps the most athletic in the major leagues, 1 through 8. Phillips through Cozart.
Here's the number 9, Matt Latos. And to prove the worth of Zach Cozart and just lay it out in very plain terms, what he's given the Reds at shortstop as a rookie has far exceeded what the rest of the cast has combined to give the team at that position. Latos with a comebacker. Stephen Fife flags it down like it's BP.
Nothing to it.
Well, return to Cincinnati after a word from your local Fox station. Saturday baseball presented by MasterCard. The Dodgers and Reds scoreless as we head to the 3rd inning. Matt Latos back to work as he pitches to A.J. Ellis, Stephen Fife, and Mark Ellis, as we're joined by Reds right-hander Bronson Arroyo from the Cincinnati dugout. Bronson, thanks for taking some time with us. Hey, congratulations on another great start yesterday and what's been just a terrific year for you. We want to ask you, though, you were around here a couple of years ago when the Reds made their last little postseason dance. Didn't go the way I think anybody wanted it to, being swept by the Phillies. But does anything feel different as you head into the postseason here 2 years later?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of differences. I mean, one is that the pitching staff from front to back is without question much stronger. I mean, Matt Latos on the mound today is a big part of that, bolstering our rotation. And obviously Johnny Cueto and Homer Bailey being, 2 years more experience and more, I think, a little stronger and more prepared to pitch in big ball games. Our bullpen's better. And I think just experience overall, it's very hard to convey to younger guys what it's like to play on that stage. There's such a difference of feel between every regular season game and those playoff games, and it's just hard to explain to guys what it's going to feel like to field a ground ball, to do all the small things in a pressure-packed game like that. And obviously it was exposed in that second game against the Phillies, and we make a bunch of errors and it costs us the ball game. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to weather that storm this time around.
Speak further, if you would, Bronson, about that best 3 out of 5 series. I mean, there's really no way to explain to baseball fans how very difficult and how pressurized those 5 games can be.
Yeah, obviously if you get off to a good start, it gives you a little bit of room for error. And obviously against a team like the Phillies in 2010 with such a great pitching staff, with those guys throwing those arms against us, it was tough. After getting no hit in game 1 by Roy Halladay, it made it difficult to bounce back from that. But yeah, a short series, anything could happen, and that's why. Just making it to the playoffs, I think, is just getting to the dance is the biggest part of it, obviously. But and anything can happen once you get in the playoffs, and it's such a coin toss. There's so many teams with great pitching, and you never know who's going to get hot at what time. So it's definitely a tough thing to win a World Series.
Fine play on a tough chance between Zach Cozart and Joey Votto, and we can ask you, Bronson. You have the pleasure of pitching with this terrific infield defense behind you every night. Now, Tim's already chronicled how good he thinks it is. Talk about what it means for you as a starting pitcher.
Yeah, it's a real comfort zone to not have to worry about the guys behind you, And I've played on teams here in the past where our outfield probably wasn't as fast as it should have been. And, we had some guys that could swing the bat but weren't necessarily tailored to play some of those positions in the infield. And having, obviously, Scott Rowland and Brandon Phillips, the 2 Gold Glovers, in the infield makes it our job a lot easier. We know we're going to get most of the double plays turned. And then, obviously, Zach Cozart is, in his first full season, has been a really, really huge surprise. I never got an opportunity to see him play in the minor leagues at all. And he's come up and been one of the smartest guys I've ever been around in the field. He knows what's going on at all times. And it definitely makes it, it just makes it easier for us to focus on the game and worry about the hitters and not worry about what's going on behind you.
And plus, you wanted to give a plug to a guy you consider the best defensive catcher in the National League, right? Ryan Hannigan?
Yeah, Hannigan's done a great job. I've been working with him, for a long time. I've always kind of, between him and David Ross, I've kind of had like a niche catcher, and this time around, Hannigan is taking over the starting spot from doing such a great job. And, working with him has been great all year long. Obviously, I think he has the lowest ERA of any catcher in the National League this year of the games he's been in. And, it just makes it easier, especially for some of the other guys that don't like to call so much of their own game, and they like to kind of click. Johnny Cueto, Mike Leake, those guys like to get after and not think too much, and he really helps those guys out a lot.
2 gone, bases empty now for Mark Ellis, back to the top of the Dodger order. We're going to check in with Greg Amsinger if we have a moment here as to what's just happened at Wrigley Field. Looks like we have the final score between the Cubs and Cardinals as we tease our audience with that little nugget. And Bronson, before we have to say goodbye to you, you used to be the guy on this staff, right? You formerly dreadlocked in your days with the Red Sox. You play guitar. You've got some artistic sensibilities. I want to say that you told me at one point you were living on a boat in Florida, right? You were the personality plus starter. And then Matt Latos comes along. He's a whack job with the tats and the whole act, right? He's out there. All of a sudden, this young 24-year-old bull is the big personality plus guy. Your impressions of Matt as a teammate?
Matt's a guy he's definitely a mixed bag, man. Like you said, he he comes to the ballpark and he's one of the first guys here. He's one of the last guys to leave. He gets his work in, but he loves hanging out and doing things that other guys don't do. He comes out and interacts with the fans more than anybody on the ball club, hands down. He's like a he's like a kid, you know, with too many toys, and he likes to run around and have a good time. But you know, he takes the game serious, and all of us have, you know, our own unique way about going about our business and what makes us feel comfortable with the ballpark, and he just does it a little different than some other guys.
Boy, what a terrific add he has been to the staff. He's been really on a great run after kind of finding his way. First couple of months as a Red, by his own description, didn't go the way he wanted them to. I think he put a lot of pressure on himself, and he has really turned the corner to become a frontline starter for the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, he has. You know, he's you know, he didn't get off to a good start, which is definitely tough when you come to a new ball club, because regardless of what you've done at any level in any other ball club, you know, you feel like you're the new kid in school, and you want to prove it to the guys that are standing next to you now in this dugout, and show them why you've been, you know, a good player or a great player. And you know, he didn't get off to a great start, which is definitely tough mentally to bounce back from. But you know, I think it took him some time to catch a groove, I think, with our catchers, and find the ways that he wanted to beat guys in these lineups on this team. And so after he clicked, I think it was probably in May, you know, he's been dynamite ever since.
A ball and a strike to count to Andre Ethier, batting with the runner aboard and 2 gone here in the third. We continued visiting with the Reds right-hander Bronson Arroyo in the third inning this afternoon, and a strike to Ethier to put him behind a ball and 2 strikes. Well, here are some of the numbers that we were talking about, Bronson, the splits on Matt Latos. First stretch as a Red, 5-2, an ERA in the 5s. Ever since that point, though, his last 16 or so, he has been dynamite. The guy that came over as advertised as a staff ace from San Diego.
Yeah, he definitely has done a good job here. Close out this inning here, and yeah, you know, we're hoping to ride him right into the playoffs, and he's going to be a huge addition to give us a chance to win down the stretch.
Bronson, thanks for the time. You're always generous with us, and best of luck down the stretch here. Brandon Phillips leads things off in the home half of the third. Top of the order for Cincinnati. Phillips, Paul, and Votto here for the Reds. Scoreless early on today. Stephen Fife and Matt Latos matching one another pitch for pitch. Brandon flied out in his first try today. Reds once again playing without Dusty Baker. Chicago still hopes to rejoin the team soon. Dusty, if you missed our earlier discussion, diagnosed with an irregular heartbeat, stayed back in Chicago for further evaluation, and again hopes to rejoin the team soon. Chris Spire filling out the lineup card in his absence, and Brandon Phillips has a base hit into left field. Time to check back in with Greg Amsinger at the MLB Network studios for a game break. Greg.
Hey, Manny, we got a final on the north side. Jason Mott comes in to shut the door. The Cardinals come back to win this thing 5-4-10. And keep in mind, Matt, that the Dodgers lose to the Reds. The Dodgers will be 3 back in the wild card chase.
Dodgers were hoping for some help. So were the Reds. In fact, none of that came with St. Louis coming from behind today. Greg, thanks. Cincinnati at 91-60. And again, with that magic number staying at 1. A Reds win, and they are National League Central Division champs. Here's Xavier Paul now with 1 away.
Baltimore in yet another extra inning game. They have won a major league record, I believe, 14 consecutive extra inning games with Baltimore.
I think that's right. That's the right number. And if we think that the National League wild card picture is wacky, I mean, the scenarios in the American League are too vast for us even to get into here in a button-down sentence.
Unbelievable.
Atlanta has the top of the 2, the first of 2 wild card spots. St. Louis hanging on to that second. The Dodgers 2.5 back as we sit today. Milwaukee, who's seemingly come out of nowhere, 2.5 back. Phillies and Arizona still in the mathematical picture. Nothing in 1 to count to Xavier Paul. The player who, since being drafted and breaking into the big leagues with the Dodgers, has bounced around to a couple of different uniforms, including a pair this year. Paul went to spring training with the Nationals, began the season at AAA there, was released, and then signed by the Reds. Off the fists for Ramirez. They'll cut down the lead runner, and that's all they get. The American League wildcard picture, as we mentioned a moment ago, is just as cloudy. Baltimore and Oakland would go if the season were to end today. The Angels 3.5 back. Everybody's still waiting for the Angels to make some big-time run. Tampa Bay is a part of the picture. So are the Tigers. I think we put Seattle on there just to appease somebody who must be from Seattle. 14.5 back in the AL wildcard picture. One out, one on. And Joey Votto behind 0-1. Ken Rosenthal, why did we put Seattle on that graphic? Any idea?
I have no idea, Matt, but I will tell you this. Oakland has an extremely difficult schedule left, and that is the one hope for the Angels. Oakland, of course, playing in New York right now. Then they go to Texas for 4 games. That can chew up, of course, a pitching staff. Then Seattle, and then they finish the season as well with Texas. So if there's hope for the Angels, it's that this young Oakland team is in a really tough spot.
I think people have been waiting for the A's wheels to fall off for much of the year, and Tim, it just has not happened.
Yeah, I mean, people have known that the A's have been in a tough spot all year.
Young staff that's held up brilliantly, even with the biggest loss, the most recent loss they took, the season-long absence now. Brett Anderson, who had come off the DL to pitch so well. 0-2 the count, meanwhile, to Joey Votto.
4 rookie starters with the Athletics.
Hauled off first with 1 gone. And Fife's next offering home misses high.
Most major league teams ease a rookie in 1 at a time. In Oakland, it's done in bunches, yearly.
A graduating class almost. You know, players that it used to be that Billy Beane would trade guys when they approached arbitration, when they got close to making money. Now he makes those moves 2-3 years in advance, and it all seems to work out well.
A guy like Gio Gonzalez, who won his 20th game today for Washington.
Gio Gonzalez, one of a handful of strong Cy Young candidates. The former A having a fine season in his first year as a National. 2 balls and 2 strikes. The count to Joey Votto, a strikeout victim back in the first, as Fife checks in at first with Xavier Paul. So far, we're seeing firsthand some of that veteran poise from Stephen Fife that Don Mattingly had advertised. This is a young 25-year-old right-hander, after all, making just his 5th ever major league start.
Joey Votto, one of the best 2-strike hitters in the game. He does not try to pull the ball with 2 strikes. He likes to hit the ball left center, from the line to left center. Great power to left center field.
Still 2 balls and 2 strikes. You might think this to be a matchup that a young pitcher, again early in his career as a starter, would overthink. But Stephen Fife's philosophy is as simplified as I think I've ever heard. For a guy that, Tim, doesn't describe himself as an overpowering pitcher, Stephen will be the first to tell you, I'm a pitch to contact guy. And that's an admission that some may not readily make.
That's a good point. It's true, too.
Still 2 balls and 2 strikes. And he strikes out Joey Votto for the 2nd time this afternoon.
That's a good breaking ball that Fife tried to get on the outside and was successful at doing so. If you're a left-handed hitter, you think that pitch may be outside, but that's that good curveball that Don Mattingly said is a very underrated curveball.
2 gone for him now, and that'll bring up Todd Frazier. That curveball is actually the pitch that converted Stephen Fife from a third baseman in high school to the pitcher's mound. And the way he tells the story, he was playing in high school, dove at a ball at third, broke the thumb on his non-pitching hand. While he was on the mend and fooling around with some of his teammates, he set up a chair on home plate, went to the pitcher's mound and told a couple of his buddies, hey, I can hit the top of that chair with a curveball. Hard to do for a guy who's a pitcher, let alone a third baseman. So on a dare, he went out there and said, watch me do it 3 times in a row. Bang, bang, bang. 3 curveballs hit the top of the chair. High school coach was watching and said, guess what? You're now a pitcher.
Oh, great story.
And here he is in the big leagues. Oh, and 1 the count to Todd Frazier. A matchup here between a pair of adversaries, not only at the big league level, but 2 guys that followed one another by just a year in the Little League World Series. Todd Frazier in '98 with Tom's River. Stephen Fife in '99 with Boise, Idaho. And that was long before Stephen Fife got onto the mound. There's a drive into the opposite field. At the wall, Andre Ethier makes the catch. Shutout intact. Kemp and Gonzalez lead things off as we go to the 4th.
Out of here, upset after he rounds first base. Watch with the hands go up. And he's probably right. That ball would have been a home run in the warmer weather, but it's fall in the Queen City. Ball does not carry as well. Pardon me, Matt.
Yeah, every once in a while those balls will stay in this ballpark.
Well, in the fall, yeah, the ball, it's a lot better for pitchers now than it was when the heat index was around 98, 99.
Matt Kemp leads things off in the Los Angeles 4th. Kemp, Gonzalez, and Ramirez against Matt Latos. Sharply hit to third. Frazier up with it. And there's 1 gone to start the 4th as we once again check in with Greg Amsinger at the MLB Network studios.
Matt, you got to watch this. 42-year-old Jim Thome, who is 0 for 5 before this at-bat. Ground rule double. It is an 8-6 lead for the O's in the top of the 12th. If they hold on, Matt and Tim, it'll be their 16th straight extra inning victory.
My goodness.
And another team that the prognosticators have been, saying doomsday for the last couple of months. It hasn't happened in Baltimore either. In fact, they're just 1 off the division lead. Forget about the wild card. The O's could win the East.
They're vying to win 6 in a row. The Yankees won their 7th in a row today. I beg your pardon, they're going to try to win 7 in a row. They're tied with the A's now in the 10th inning.
Set for such a fantastic finish. I don't know when, as Adrian Gonzalez stands in with a 1-1 count. The last time we talked about the A's, the Orioles, and the Yankees in the same postseason breath. I mean, you might have to go back to the Finley's Heroes teams in Oakland and that great run the Orioles had in the 1970s.
Early 70s, that's right. And World Championship won by the A's 3 years in a row, 72, 3, and 4. The great Oriole teams from 66 through the late 70s. Fabulous.
Swing and a miss by Gonzalez. 4 strikeouts for Matt Latos today.
Led by Frank Robinson, Brooks Robinson, Davey Johnson, a young second baseman in the late 60s. And Buck Showalter, what a job he has done for the Baltimore Orioles. And that, make no mistake about it, that is his team now, and he's very proud of it and should be.
2 gone here with the bases empty. And that'll bring up Hanley Ramirez. There are these little historical tales to be learned from teams that come from behind, and teams like the Orioles with their rich postseason history. And for the Dodgers, they need to look no further than their own franchise history for an encouraging story of coming from the ashes. 1965. The eventual World Series champion Dodgers were 3 games behind the Giants at the conclusion of play on September 21st with 11 games left. Almost the exact same scenario they face today. Well, they not only caught the Giants, they, as we mentioned, went on to win the World Series that year. They got hot at the right time, and that's something the Dodgers are hoping can happen with the last 11 games of the schedule this year. Two balls and a strike to Hanley Ramirez. To 2-2 now. Of course, it's a little easier when you're talking about catching just one team, as the 65 Dodgers needed to do. In the case of these Dodgers, to get to that second wild card spot, they need to pass a group of teams ahead of them. That's something we'll visit with Don Mattingly about next inning when he joins us live. Here's the 2-2 home from Latos.
You could understand the futility of the offense back in the 60s for the Dodgers, because their team was built around Koufax and Drysdale. Claude Osteen came along, Peronowski to close it out in the bullpen. But you cannot understand the lack of offense with this particular Dodger team.
3 up, 3 down against Matt Latos in the fourth. We'll talk to Don Mattingly as we continue next. Chris Heise and Deoner Navarro back with Tim McCarver and Ken Rosenthal. Matt Vasgersian on the line this afternoon. A division title for the Cincinnati Reds. Magic number still at 1. Oh my goodness. And it's 1-0 Cincinnati.
Wow.
He doesn't hit too many cheapies, does he?
Woo.
Number 34 for Jay Bruce has started the scoring this afternoon.
Looked like an off-speed pitch. Whew. He hit it like he was looking for it. And did he ever hit it?
One 1-0 Cincinnati. Here's Chris Heise now. Well, Don Mattingly told us before the game, that's a guy you have to worry about. And if you're going to manage like it's the postseason, and that's what Don Mattingly's been doing, you try to minimize the opportunities that he'll have against right-handed pitchers. Well, it's only the fourth inning, and Stephen Fife's thrown the ball well. You're not going to make a move in a scoreless tie just because Jay Bruce is coming up. But he went ahead and hit the home run to make it 1-0 Reds.
And Don Mattingly did exactly that last night when Jay Bruce came up facing Joe Blanton. He didn't take, or I beg your pardon, last night he took Blanton out of the game when Bruce came up. He brought the left-hander in, saying that had that happened in May, I wouldn't have done the same thing. But last night he did, because he didn't want to give Jay Bruce a chance to see his right-hander one more time.
Full count, meanwhile, 3 balls and 2 strikes to Chris Heise. Jay Bruce seems to step up this time of year. Circumstances like the one the Reds are in now. Magic number 1. Jam shot pop up behind the second base bag. Here's what we're talking about. Let's go back 2 years. The last Reds division title, September 28, 2000 Reds. Jay Bruce leading off the 9th. Game-ending, division-clinching home run. Just the 5th time in Major League history a walk-off home run has clinched a division. And then to lead off this inning, Jay Bruce, home run. 1-0 Reds. Again, just to remind you of the big picture, the Reds magic number 1, a win this afternoon, and Cincinnati has won a Central Division crown for the 2nd time in the last 2 years.
First pitch, breaking ball. That will go into the books of all the scouts that are here in Cincinnati today, one of whom is Bob Boone, assistant to the general manager Mike Rizzo of the Washington Nationals.
There are a lot of them here today as Dioner Navarro has a 2-balls 1-strike count. Just about all the postseason players have representatives here, and if I can do a quick site survey, the Phillies, the Giants, and a strike to make it 2-2 on the switch hitting catcher Dioner Navarro.
First ball fastball for a home run is not that unusual. First ball breaking ball and you pop one out, that's unusual enough to give a notation in a scout's book.
Well, despite the home run by Jay Bruce, Stephen Fife throwing the ball well, duly noted by the scouts that are here this afternoon. Still 2 balls and 2 strikes. Should be noted today that Stephen Fife is out there in what is Clayton Kershaw's turn in the Dodger rotation. Fife is filled in that spot now for back-to-back starts while the Dodgers figure out if Kershaw is able to go with the bad hip. And again, not a guy, Stephen Fife, who looks like he's making only his 5th major league start, pitching with a lot of poise today, something we talked with Don Mattingly about between innings.
No, he's been good. He's faced some pretty good guys too. He's had Holiday to start out and some tough guys he's pitched against. He keeps making pitches, changes speeds. He's not a big time overpower you guy, but he makes pitches.
Donnie, you grew up about 3.5 hours from here and have a lot of friends and family here in town, so kind of extra pressure for the Dodgers to win today.
A little bit. My grandson's here. First time I've got to see him in a while. And, I grew up in this area, Cardinals, Reds fan, and so it's a little different for me.
Hey, Don, thanks for taking some time with us. Best of luck down the stretch.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Donnie.
Thank you, guys.
Zach Kozark, the batter, with a 1-ball, no-strike count. When Don Mattingly said my grandson's here, I had to kind of shake it. Donnie's in terrific shape, by the way.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
There's Clayton Kershaw. We talked about Kershaw's hip problem, one that's cost him a couple of starts. He was thought to be lost for the remainder of the regular season. And the Dodgers are holding out some very quiet optimism that perhaps they're keeping that door ajar just enough. Perhaps he may be able to start at some point before the end of the year. It may be unlikely, but they have not completely closed off that possibility. 2 balls and 2 strikes. The count to Zach Kozark. Strike 3 called. 4 punch-outs for Stephen Fife this afternoon, but this swing has started the scoring. 34th home run of the year for Jay Bruce makes it 1-0 Reds. Trailing the Reds 1-0. We visited with the Los Angeles skipper last half inning, and Tim, through a season of change, one thing has remained very steady, and that's the voice in the dugout.
There is no doubt about it. I don't see how any major league manager could do any better than Don Mattingly has done with this Dodger team, considering the ownership change and the offseason. Frank McCourt not making any moves because of the situation that the Dodgers were in. And then by the time the Dodgers did make the move with Magic Johnson, the Guggenheim financial folks, there were some changes made, but not enough and too late in my view.
Luis Cruz leads things off in the 5th with a base hit. He's now hit safely in 8 straight and 15 of his last 16. Leadoff hitter aboard for the Dodgers for the 2nd time today.
But it's got to be one of the more difficult jobs for any manager to have not only ownership change, but to have it last for 6 months during the offseason. the deal consummated back in early May when Magic, and of course everybody's happy about that, but the Dodger players were almost you know, and the building of a team almost forgotten in the process.
Juan Rivera with a room service double play ground ball. Cozart to Votto, and there are 2 away for Matt Latos in the 5th. That sends us right out to Greg Amsinger at the MLB Network studios for.
Matt, you got to watch this. Miguel Cabrera, this ball did not want to come down. 8-0 is the score through 4. Miguel Cabrera hitting .333, best in the AL, 131 RBIs, best in the AL, now tied with Josh Hamilton with 42 home runs. Back to you.
Wow, and Greg, as you know, if Josh Hamilton doesn't have a chance to play again during the regular season, or if his at-bats are scarce, you're looking at a very real possibility here, Tim, that Miguel Cabrera could win an American League Triple Crown. It would be the first since Carl Yastrzemski in 1967.
The year after Frank Robinson won it for the Baltimore Orioles in 1966.
Those are monster numbers. And I know Mike Trout's made a tremendous impact with the Angels and on the American League Western Division race, but that guy's going to get a lot of MVP consideration, Miguel Cabrera.
What he's done the last month has made a lot of people change their minds about the MVP of the American League.
2-gun base is empty now for A.J. Ellis, looking to snap out of an 0 for 27 slide. A ball and 2 strikes. And Matt Latos continuing to roll right along. He has scattered 3 singles today. He struck out 5. Take a look at our Dodgers Lexus in-game box score. The singles belong to Ellis, Gonzalez, and Cruz. Not a lot of crooked or fancy numbers on this 1 through 9. The next 1-2 pitch to A.J. Ellis. Off the end of the bat. Punched out to second. Another 1-2-3 inning for Matt Latos. He's retired 7 straight. Presented by MasterCard is sponsored by the all-new redesigned 2013 Chevrolet Malibu. It's a beautiful afternoon for baseball in Cincinnati. The Reds hanging on to a 1-0 lead as we start playing the bottom half of the 5th. Fans hoping that maybe Christmas comes a little bit early in the form of a Reds win and a division clincher this afternoon. There are some folks wearing blue here today as well, hoping that the Dodgers, who started play with a 2-game wild card deficit, can pick up and get hot down the stretch. Here's Matt Latos to lead it off against Stephen Fife. We were talking earlier about the way Matt Latos started his Reds career after the trade that brought him over from San Diego in the offseason. Struggled the first 2 months trying to justify the deal, and told us yesterday that he heard so much discussion about what the Reds gave up that he felt like he really needed to justify the deal and do something that really wasn't in his skill set. Walt Jocketty pulling the trigger on a big trade in the offseason, comebacker, and Fife will do this himself, 1 away. Well, ever since getting that 2 months behind him, he has been a completely different pitcher and the guy that the Padres saw these last few years.
You talked about it earlier. He was traded for 4 players, and you get the feeling that he felt like he had to be 4 times as good as he really was. And that's common. Bronson Arroyo talking about it earlier. Bronson coming over from the Boston Red Sox. And anybody who's ever been traded understands. There's Walt Jocketty, general manager of the Reds. Anybody who's been traded understands that the one thing you cannot do is to let that get in your mind. And before you know it, you're trying to do too much.
1 gun base is empty now for Brandon Phillips. Well, not only is Matt Latos going to be big here down the stretch in the regular season, but come postseason time, especially if the Reds end up opening in San Francisco, which is a distinct possibility, then he might inherit even more of a position of import. He's got terrific career numbers at San Francisco, very familiar with the NL West. In fact, there's some things that pop out on the stat sheet when you look at Matt Latos, including the success he has in the afternoon, which leads you to believe a day like today is perfectly suited for his being on the mound. There's the 3-0 to Brandon Phillips, and there's ball 4. Ken Rosenthal, I know that we had a chance to visit with Matt Latos, and he had a rather strange explanation for his daytime success.
He sure did, Matt. We asked him about that, and he said, listen, I hate getting up early. I'm totally miserable when I have to get up early. So my attitude when I go onto the mound for a day game is, listen, if I have to be here, you have to deal with me.
Then we asked him about a 4 o'clock start. He said, yeah, that's a little different. I have a little more rest.
Well, the results have been just as good at 4 o'clock as they are at 1 o'clock for him so far. 1 out, 1 on now for Xavier Paul. He has walked and grounded into a fielder's choice today. A free spirit.
Yes, he is.
Paul swinging on the second offering. A fly ball out to shallow right. Mark Ellis makes a great play while running out to the outfield and almost doubles off Brandon Phillips.
Well, that's a big league play that Brandon Phillips would appreciate, because he may be the only other second baseman in the National League that can make this play. Fine play by Ellis. Almost doubles up Phillips. Nice.
Has always been such a strong defensive player. We relayed the note earlier about his career fielding percentage, second best all time at his position. And there are 2 gone now for Joey Votto. Joey Votto with 2 strikeouts on his line this afternoon. And it's a ball and no strikes to the 2010 National League MVP. You know, Mark Ellis, as we continue talking about the Dodgers second baseman, is very fortunate and very grateful to be out there, considering the very serious injury he sustained back in May when he was taken out turning a double play ball on a slide. He sustained a leg injury that led to a blood clot that led to the kind of problem that fortunately was diagnosed by the Dodgers training staff that otherwise might have led to some very serious issues for Mark.
Tyler Green of the Cardinals took him out of a double play on May 18th. He ended up missing 43 games as a result.
There was internal bleeding in his lower leg that was, again, properly diagnosed and alleviated in an emergency procedure. And the seriousness was that apparently, had that procedure not taken place, Mark may have been in great danger to have never played again.
And perhaps lose his leg.
Wow.
That's how serious it was.
Well, you'd never know it by his performance. Off the DL after missing the 40+, and he's been the same guy that steadily reigned in Oakland at second base for many years. 3 balls and a strike to count to Joey Votto.
Dangerous situation right here. You don't want to give him anything inside at which to swing.
Into the opposite hole.
Well, Joey Votto got a fastball inside, but didn't do with it what he normally does with an inside fastball. And I think the reason for that, it's almost like spring training for Joey Votto. The 2 surgeries, missing all those games. That's a ball he would normally turn on. He does get a base hit, but not the type of hit that you would think under those circumstances.
Well, that gives the Reds a promising situation now with one of their big power threats due up, and Dodger pitching coach Rick Honeycutt out to chat with Stephen Fife. Los Angeles has their bullpen hot. Randy Choate has been up. He is warm and ready to go should the call go his way. Todd Frazier, a right-handed batter, due up, and then it's Jay Bruce. So you'd think that maybe for Bruce, should it get that far, they'd make the change. Well, the big opportunity now for Todd Frazier, and we have insinuated and kind of pattered around, Tim, the kind of impact he's made with the Reds. The fact remains that not since Springsteen took the darkness on the edge of a town tour to Riverfront Stadium has a Jersey kid been so beloved in the Buckeye State.
In a hurry.
Oh for 2 so far today. Runners at first and second for him. He picks on the first pitch and pops it up. Gonzalez hoping for a play. Never has Ken Rosenthal been so close to recording the 3rd out of an inning.
Moves well to his left.
Kenny, what's the tie for today, by the way? I know that there's a special cause attached to that every Saturday.
Yes, this one, Matt, is for multiple sclerosis, and it's especially meaningful for 2 people in the game of baseball. Ryan Zimmerman of the Nationals, the great third baseman, and Rangers general manager John Daniels. Both of their moms suffer from MS.
Todd Frazier with a base hit to left field. Here comes Phillips being waved around to score. Rivera's throw is too late. Frazier's hung up between first and third now. It's Gonzalez, and now the tag applied by Cruz. It's an RBI single credited to Todd Frazier that makes it 2-0 Reds through 5. State Farm for auto, home, life, and banking. Get to a better state. And by Firestone, reminding you that wherever you drive a Firestone. Back with Tim McCarver and Ken Rosenthal, Matt Vasgersian. The Reds padding to their lead. An RBI single by Todd Frazier in the last of the 5th, giving Matt Latos a 2-0 advantage over the Dodgers as we start playing the top of the 6th inning. D. Gordon will lead off as a pinch hitter, meaning the end of the afternoon for Stephen Fife, Gordon, Ellis, and Ethier. Well, D. Gordon was around earlier in the season when it was a less costly cast of Dodger characters that through May had established the best record in baseball. An injury, and then during his recovery period, D had to sit around and watch the high-priced acquisitions of players like Hanley Ramirez, which found him on the outside looking in. It's been used sparingly down the stretch. And it's a ball and 2 strikes for Matt Latos. A lot of questions about the role D will have next year moving forward with Ramirez on the roster. He can run. Latos got to hurry and gets it over to first for the 1st out of the inning. This MLB on Fox season, Fox Sports is proud to support Boys and Girls Club of America, a place where youth can reach their full potential as productive, caring, responsible citizens. To learn more, please visit greatfutures.org/Fox Sports. Welcome you inside the broadcast booth. And Tim, there are 42,000 or so people in the ballpark today.
Seated.
Waiting. Just waiting.
Some are standing with the Cardinals winning and the wild card still won. Everybody here in Cincinnati looking to celebrate, along with what is Cincinnati's version of Oktoberfest, which will be held tonight throughout the streets of the Queen City. They're very, very excited about their ball club, and they have every reason to be.
There are a lot of folks here last night sold out, thinking that last night may be the night that they would wave that division championship banner. And I would imagine a lot of the same folks came back today in the same hopes. Still 0-2 to Mark Ellis.
Again, this is a move that Don Mattingly had to make because games are so precious. Only 11 games left for the Dodgers, including this one. But normally, if this is a May game, Fife ends up hitting to lead off the 5th inning. But now you have to play it like it's a playoff game.
And a swing and a miss by Mark Ellis. Navarro finishes with the throw, and there are 2 gone in the second. Tomorrow on NFL Fox Sunday, the Buccaneers take on Tony Romo and the Cowboys in Dallas. Some will see the 49ers and Vikings, others the Rams and Bears. Some will see the Lions and Titans. Or LaShawn McCoy and the Eagles head to Arizona to battle Larry Fitzgerald and the Cardinals. Falcons and Chargers in San Diego. It all begins tomorrow with the Built Ford Tough NFL Fox Sunday pregame show at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. A full day of NFL football tomorrow on Fox. 2 gone now for Andre Ethier, twice a strikeout victim this afternoon. Ethier began play today with robust numbers against Matt Latos. Considerable familiarity considering Latos' days in San Diego. And here's some of that success by Andre Ethier continuing in the 6th inning today.
After 2 strikeouts, going the other way with the fastball. Good hitting by Andre Ethier. Not every base hit is a mistake by the pitcher, but that's that fat part of the plate mistake by Latos. Probably the only one he's made all day.
Well, just the 4th hit of the afternoon for Los Angeles. They have all been singles, and now it's Matt Kemp. After a 3-for-5 opener yesterday that included the game-winning RBI, Kemp 0 for 2 so far today. But Matt Latos has been as accurate in terms of balls and strikes as he has been efficient today.
Yeah, and it's the types of strikes that he's been throwing, not middle of the plate strikes. Major league hitters pound those.
But the Dodgers don't have a runner past first base this afternoon. And that's been a theme that Los Angeles fans have heard all too often down the stretch this year. Two balls and no strikes, the count to Matt Kemp. And that's swatted for Cozart at shortstop. He'll go the short way to cut down Andre Ethier. Nothing in the LA 6th. We go to the bottom of the inning. Jay Bruce is already homered today. He'll lead off for the Reds, up 2-0.
16th straight extra inning victory. 9-6 the final. Jim Johnson's 47th save. Trying to stay 1 game back. Maybe pick up some ground on the Yankees in the AL East. Play at the plate in the 12th. Derek Norris holds on. It's still tied 5-5. Winning run at third base now for the Yankees in the bottom of the 12th. Back to Cincinnati with Nat Bezpirjan and Tim McCarver, guys.
Oh, Derek Norris just took a shot there. Not that Dan Fouts' beard was unable to protect him from that collision he took with Raul Ibanez. A's and Yankees still in a 5-5 tie. That's in the last of the 12th with 2 gone. New York has runners at first and second. We'll keep you up to date on that one. And we'll tell you about the new Dodger pitcher. Rookie left-hander Paco Rodriguez takes over in the 6th. He is amazingly A guy that was drafted in June.
Hard to believe, isn't it? The first of his class.
And he'll get Jay Bruce leading things off in the 6th inning. So you go, we talk about guys, Tim, that go from, say, AA, AAA to the major leagues in the middle of a pennant race. Paco Rodriguez is going from the SEC to the NL West.
Right.
In one fell swoop. And he pops up Jay Bruce. Hanley had trouble seeing that off the bat, but he's able to settle under it for the first down. Well, our Jeep game summary, if you're just tuning us in, it has not been an enormous lead enjoyed by Matt Latos, but he really hasn't needed a whole lot of help. Got a home run from Jay Bruce, an RBI single from Todd Frazier, and Matt has done the rest, limiting Los Angeles to just 4 singles through 6 innings this afternoon. Stephen Fife threw the ball very well, making his 5th career start, and he has yielded here for the rookie left-hander. 1 gone now for Chris Heisey. Off the end of the bat, and on a couple of hops for Mark Ellis, 2 quick outs in the 6th.
Now you realize that young players mature so much earlier now. They're exposed to so much in college, and they're much more prepared to pitch or play in the major leagues than they were 30, 40 years ago. But one of the great stories of the late 50s was when Von McDaniel came up for the St. Louis Cardinals, an 18-year-old pitcher out of Oklahoma City. His brother Lindy was pitching for the Cardinals at the time, and Von won 7 games for a team that was contending in '58, and then hurt his arm the next spring, tried to make a third baseman out of him, and eventually left the game prematurely. Von McDaniel.
Google him, kids.
Yeah.
DeAndre Navarro early on that ball, and it's an 0-2 count to the switch-hitting Reds catcher.
But this, think about it, this was 1958, but here's Paco Rodriguez right now, drafted in June, and the first player from that draft class in the major leagues, and here he is pitching in meaningful games.
I mean, I don't even think Paco Rodriguez or his family in their wildest of dreams could have envisioned a scenario like this one.
That's right.
What a tremendous success story. An exaggerated track to the big leagues, and here's the 0-2 home. Still 0-2. DeAndre Navarro continues to be early. As decorated as he was in the SEC, first team all-conference honors as a junior, great numbers as a starter, as a closer. I don't think you can ever predict that a guy will be in the big leagues months after he was drafted. A ball and 2 strikes.
And not only throwing strikes, but throwing quality strikes in a big game.
I think Dodger fans are wishing he was a two-way player. Maybe he could hit, because the bullpen has been great for Don Mattingly and Rick Honeycutt. It's the lineup that has failed the team down the stretch. Still a ball and 2 strikes. Los Angeles batting under .220 over the last 2.5 weeks of the season. And that's the lowest figure in the big leagues. And you'd never think this cast of characters would be responsible for such a paltry number. However, if you're a glass half full guy, you think, as bad as it's been offensively for the Dodgers, they started play today only 2 out in the wild card. Two balls and 2 strikes, the count to DeAndre Navarro. And an impressive 1-2-3-6 by the rookie left-hander. We'll return to Cincinnati after a word from your local Fox station. MasterCard. Well, among those hoping for a Dodger comeback win today, Tommy Lasorda, the Hall of Famer, celebrating his 85th birthday this afternoon. Happy birthday, Tommy.
All right. Should say so.
63 years with the Dodgers. In addition to the accolades you see on the screen, he has managed more than a handful of players that have gone on to be managers themselves, including Reds manager Dusty Baker, who, again, we send out our get well soon wishes. Dusty not with the team. He's in Cincinnati undergoing further evaluation after being diagnosed with an irregular heartbeat during the week. The Reds are in the very able hands of Chris Spire until Dusty can return, hopefully soon. Adrian Gonzalez leads off the 7th for Los Angeles.
Johnny B. Baker Jr. 1,575 career wins, second among active managers, 3-time National League Manager of the Year. Never won a World Series, but was 8 outs from it in 1972. I beg your pardon, in 2002, when he was the manager of the San Francisco Giants.
I think Dusty would tell you that his heart felt worse then than it does today. 2 balls and a strike. The count to Adrian Gonzalez leading off the 7th. Gonzalez, Ramirez, and Cruz. And the curveball misses low.
Never will forget Dusty taking the ball from Russ Ortiz. And at the time, the Giants had a considerable lead. I think it was 5 runs. Scott Spezio hit a huge 3-run home run in that game for the Angels. They won that game and came back to win Game 7.
1 gone in the top of the 7th. Reds pitching has been the story here this afternoon as we give you the Just for Men Auto Stop foolproof stat of the day, and it is in regards to Reds pitching. This is the 2nd time in franchise history that the Cincinnati staff boasts 4 pitchers with 12 or more wins and 120 or more strikeouts. That group you see on your screen right there. Just as the Reds can count on their staff, you can count on Just for Men Auto Stop for foolproof results. 1 gone for Hanley Ramirez.
You think about the Cincinnati Reds and the history of the Reds. The Reds have never been known for their pitching throughout their history. Big Red Machine won World Series in 75, 76. The pitching was okay, but it was the offense that carried those teams.
Yeah, you know, that's a great point, because when you think of those players and you think of who pops to mind, it's Rose, Bench, Perez, Foster, Concepcion. You got to go a ways. Morgan, you got to keep going to get to Clay Kirby.
Right.
Don Gullett,
Will McEnany, Jack Billingham,
Pedro Bourbon,
right,
Senior. Well, this Reds team has a chance to finish with among the best regular season records in franchise history, and that's saying something for a team that's been around over 100 years, as the Reds have. A ball and 2 strikes. It remains to Hanley Ramirez.
First year for the Reds 4 years after the Civil War ended.
Still a ball and 2 strikes to Hanley Ramirez.
Boy, Latos in total control this afternoon.
We saw Johnny Cueto watching the proceedings a moment ago. He'll be the guy that opens the postseason for the Reds. Matt Latos making a very strong bid to be the number 2 postseason starter. Bronson Arroyo's been terrific, as we documented earlier. They've got Homer Bailey, who they'd probably like to give a home start to. He's been, or rather a road start to, beg your pardon. He's been much better away from this ballpark. But boy, Matt Latos has been, as you mentioned, Tim, brilliant today. Shattered bat on a roller out to Cozart. Let's continue talking about the Reds and their postseason history. Cincinnati has won 5 World Series titles. 2 of them during that big red machine run in the 70s. 6 postseason appearances, 4 pennants in those years. A bit of a drought since then, interrupted with their upset sweep of the A's in the 1990 World Series. But for the 20 years starting in 2000, or rather in 1991, just 6 winning seasons. Trying to recapture those glory years here. A division title in 2010. A magic number of 1 in 2012. Here's Luis Cruz. We mentioned, Tim, that if the Reds go on a run here, and if, let's say they win out. Let's say they win out. 11 left. This team could settle in as one of the winningest in regular season franchise history. 102, and they could tie that 1970 squad.
That 1975 team, the best Reds team in the history of this franchise. And it took them 7 games to beat the Boston Red Sox.
That's right.
In a World Series that a lot of people, and I'm one of them, consider the thing that brought baseball back to where it was as prominently thought of in the 60s. Went into a little down period, a little slump. Not after 75, and it's been straight up since then.
You get a real spirited debate when you talk about the greatest World Series ever. And 75 had generally been regarded as the one until perhaps 1991. Twins Blue Jays. I'm sorry, Twins Braves. And then maybe even last year.
And 2001. Don't forget the Diamondbacks and the Yankees. Those 3 games at Yankee Stadium, won by the Yankees. Games 5, 4, and 5. 2 of the more memorable games. But you're right. I mean, last year things changed. To me, last year was the best.
That's the one that gets your vote?
That's the one that gets my vote.
Listen, yes. I would sign off on your view of that, having watched and called so many and been there for so many. A ball and a strike to count to Juan Rivera with a runner aboard and 2 gone. To 1 and 2 now.
I was not there in 1975, but I will tell you I received a third of a share from the Boston Red Sox. I was released in late June when Carlton Fisk came back off the list. I did not have a job, but I received $4,400 as a reward for being a part of the Red Sox for a third of the season.
Okay, $4,400.
Needed every dollar too, baby. Every dollar.
It's 2 balls and 2 strikes on Juan Rivera. I think those shares have gone up a little bit since 75.
Yes. Winner's share of a World Series last year, I believe, was $345,000. I believe, right around. It's in that neighborhood.
It's a lot of loaves of bread. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Matt Latos to Juan Rivera. Back to Latos, and his dominant day continues. 7 shutout innings at home this afternoon. The entirely new Lexus ES, and by Michelin, a better way forward. 7th inning stretch having come and gone. A change on the mound for the Dodgers. Trying to keep this a 2-0 deficit is right-hander Matt Guerrier. He'll face Zach Kozart. Then Matt Latos standing on deck. And then top of the order, Brandon Phillips. Cozart grounds to shortstop. Ramirez has it. And there's one gone to start the last of the 7th as we send it back to check in with Greg Amsinger at the MLB Network studios.
Matt, a wild game in the Bronx. 5-5 in the 13th. Johnny Gomes is 17th of the year. Cespedes went back-to-back. 2 batters later, Chris Carter hit a home run. It's 9-5 A's right now, Matty. They really are the swinging A's. Back
to you. Johnny Gomes fits in with that club perfectly. The ex-Red, kind of scrappy, Northern California native. The A's trying to run that Detroit-New York road trip gauntlet in the last couple of weeks of the season and stay in that wild card thick of things.
Johnny Gomes put Petaluma, California on the map first. And then the Little League team did it this year about a month and a half ago.
Here's Matt Latos with 1 out and the base is empty. It changed defensively, by the way, behind Matt Guerrier, as Elian Herrera has taken over in left field. Brandon Phillips waiting next. And it's a ball and 2 strikes to Matt Latos.
Well, Matt Latos is doing so well this afternoon that you don't even think about the bullpen. But we were talking to Chris Spire before the game and asking him about Aroldis Chapman and when he will be able to get him into a game. And I think it's very important that the Reds start as soon as possible.
Tough chance for Cruz at third, and he converts for out number 2. A reminder to catch all the action of the 2012 postseason on Fox and TBS. The excitement begins October 5th with the wild card on TBS.
Chapman has not pitched in about 2.5 to 3 weeks because of shoulder fatigue. And going into the postseason, the Reds want to make sure that he is razor sharp. He is phenomenal. I've never heard crowd reaction for a closer other than Mariano Rivera. But Mariano Rivera's is out of so much respect. It's not thunderous like Chapman's is.
Well, when you light up that radar in the triple digits, as he so often does, you know what an impact player that the Reds have at the end of the night, no doubt. Here's Brandon Phillips with 2 gone. Brandon has singled, walked, and scored this afternoon. Well, if things continue on their current pace in the National League and the Reds finish atop their division, the Nationals finish where they are, the Giants finish where they are, the postseason for Cincinnati would begin exactly 2 weeks from today in San Francisco. Kind of crippled pass there by Brandon Phillips, and he falls behind 1 and 2. We talked to the pitching coach Brian Price, the Reds pitching coach, as we take a look at the regrettable 1-1 swing again.
That is one swing that Brandon will not be tweeting about today after the game.
Maybe the only thing Brandon will not be tweeting about. Brian Price told us before the game, as we guessed, far too early with all the different scenarios to line up your postseason rotation. But the Reds are very aware of the success Matt Latos has in particular in San Francisco. So if there were a debate as to who would be the number 2 starter behind Johnny Cueto, I think some of those numbers of Latos may answer the question. And that last picture we saw, Tim, answered the question that you just posed regarding Aroldis Chapman.
Number 54 is up in the bullpen. Don't know whether he's just getting his work in or in the way Matt Latos has been pitching. I mean, he's got complete game stuff. His pitch count's down. You wonder.
It does not look like a guy that wants to come out of the game.
No.
That dude, Brandon Phillips, has gone deep. Did that hit the top tank? Wow.
You talk about the tale of two swings. Two pitches before the home run swing was that swing of futility by Brandon Phillips. Same pitch. 2 pitches later, Guerrier came back with a breaking ball. It's got to be as far as Brandon Phillips can hit a ball.
Wow. I mean, that ball was crushed.
Oh.
We can call right back to the '75 World Series we were talking about. Bernie Carbo, 2-3 pitches before the dramatic 3-run home run as a pinch hitter, flailed like he looked like he was in A ball.
Fouling balls off, right?
3-0 Cincinnati. A ball and a strike to count to Xavier Paul. Sold out crowd sensing more excitement to come at the end of this afternoon. Feeling a bit more secure in their lead today.
Here's the bad swing. Futile. No chance.
Yeah.
You got that one right.
Twitter will be ablaze after the game this afternoon. In fact, on cue, Dat Dude BP was tweeting away a night ago. Looks like we messed up a perfect situation to clinch tonight, LOL. But the best part about it is we can try again tomorrow.
Laughing at that one swing. And it was funny.
It's especially funny when you hit a ball 425 feet 2 pitches later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes to Xavier Paul. Boy, he has fun, doesn't he? The great news for the Reds is that they have not lost in a game where Brandon Phillips has hit a home run this year. Undefeated when that dude goes deep. A foul ball. Full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes. It remains to Xavier Paul. And there's ball 4. Dodger bullpen hot behind Matt Guerrier. Now the problem for Don Mattingly has not been his bullpen down the stretch. Bullpen's been great, as a matter of fact, but running out of chances offensively for what's been a cold lineup today and on this trip. Down by 3 and making a pitching change. We'll be right back. Well, with time running out on the Dodgers this afternoon, down by 3, Don Mattingly can ill afford any more Reds offense. That explains in part the pitching change. He selected Randy Choate to try to get Joey Votto a run in on the Brandon Phillips home run, 2 out and a runner aboard. Great numbers for the veteran left-hander this year. He has been particularly stingy against left-handed hitting, limiting southpaws to just a 163 batting average.
Yeah, Matt, he's a tough assignment for most left-handed hitters. He drops down, you have a tendency to drop out. Open that front side, then he's got you.
Paying careful attention to Xavier Paul at first base with 2 gone. It's actually Drew Stubbs out there who's been inserted in as a pinch runner. 0-1 it remains to Joey Votto. Votto has singled and struck out twice today.
Then he bites you inside with that fastball. He is a tough assignment and always has been for left-handed batters. Get a guy like Joey Votto to look like that. Check swing on that fastball inside. Hey, the one thing I've seen today with Joey Votto, he is not swinging like the Joey Votto we've seen swing before. I think he's got a ways to go before he is totally healthy. He has 11 days, or as you said earlier, 2 weeks before they would open in the postseason. That's going to be a valuable 2 weeks for Joey Votto.
Well, there'll be no such thing for Dusty Baker and Chris Spire as just kind of getting through the rest of the schedule, having sewn up the division. There is business to attend to.
Right.
Lining up your rotation the right way.
Yeah.
Getting guys like Votto right for the division series.
Aroldis Chapman.
Choate continuing to pay attention to the speedy Drew Stubbs. This is what's left for Cincinnati. They'll wrap up this series with the Dodgers tomorrow night, and then everything else within the division, including the last 6 on the road. Choate finally comes home, and the 0-2 pitch is chopped to the right side of the infield. Ellis to Gonzalez to retire the side. Brandon Phillips, 18th of the year, however, on the heels of a really bad hack, makes this a 3-0 Cincinnati lead. Afternoon, thrown 93 pitches through 7. He's out there to begin at least the top of the 8th. A couple of changes behind him. Chris Heisey takes over in left. Drew Stubbs pinch ran earlier in the game, last half inning, and he'll stay out there in center with Heisey shifting over.
So, Matt, now in essence, as we were talking about earlier in the game, the Reds have 3 center fielders in the outfield, all capable of playing and having the range of good center fielders.
A heck of a relay team.
I'll say very impressive.
Bobby Abreu leads things off. A pinch hitter opens the 8th. It'll be Abreu, Herrera, and Ellis. Amazingly, Tim, as we glance down at our scorecards, we said this a couple of innings ago, and I keep waiting for it to change. The Dodgers don't have a base runner past first base today.
Totally dominating this afternoon as Matt Lato's been.
A ball and 2 strikes to Bobby Abreu. There are nights when you watch a lineup struggle and you think, how can this be happening? And then there are days like today when the Dodgers struggles can be explained by that big right-hander wearing a red shirt.
That's right. And if you've got a shutout going and you're getting foul balls the other way by a capable major league left-handed hitter, you know his stuff's still there.
Breaking ball misses outside, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes. Still 2-2 to Bobby Abreu.
Matt Latos, remember we told you in the opening scouting report, remember the Cougars, the Coconut Creek Cougars at Southern Florida. That's the last time he remembers clinching anything in baseball. And his overpowering stuff has certainly been that this afternoon and warming up for the playoffs in a big way.
Swing and a miss. Strikeout number 7 in what has been a brilliant afternoon by the 24-year-old right-hander. He may have had some help from the shadows early, but make no mistake, this has been Matt Latos' afternoon in Cincinnati today. One gone for Elian Herrera now. Matt came close to a postseason type atmosphere in the big leagues beyond the high school Cougars.
Coconut Creek Cougars?
Coconut Creek Cougars, right. Well, tie my Scotch Irish tongue in a knot. As a Padre, in a memorable game number 162 in 2009, as Herrera bounces that over the second base bag, Cozart from center field unable to throw out the speedy Herrera.
Elian Herrera smelled the hit. High chopper. Cozart had too much to do with the guy who could run.
One out, one on. And now Mark Ellis, who is 1 for 3 today. In that game 162 between the Padres and Giants at the end of the 2009 season, San Diego had charged into San Francisco after maintaining a huge lead in the NL West for most of the season, only to be passed by the Giants. They needed to sweep San Francisco to force a one-game playoff. Little fly ball out to Bruce. And there are 2 gone.
3 center fielders in the outfield.
San Diego won on Friday, won on Saturday. Matt Latos pitched on Sunday, gave up 4 hits over 7 innings, but the Giants won, and that's as close as Matt's been to a postseason game since. Hey, a reminder, don't miss the biggest event of the season, Fox Fantasy Football, presented by Burger King. Easy league setup, Fox Fantasy Insider info, always free to play. Play in a private league with a group of friends or join a public league. Sign up today at foxsports.com/fantasy. And don't ask me for any help. I drafted 2 quarterbacks with the same bye week. It's not going to taste good. Here's Andre Ethier with a runner aboard and 2 away.
Who were they?
Cam Newton and Jay Cutler. Both off week 6. That's like the first thing you do when you play fantasy football is make sure your quarterbacks have different bye weeks. That's exactly what I get, leaving my comfort zone. Big swing and a miss. Fans on their feet. 0-2 to Ethier. There have been a couple of really fun finishes around the Major League scoreboard this afternoon. And one that we thought was headed toward the finish line is apparently not there yet. The Oakland A's had a 4-run lead in the 13th inning in New York. The Yankees got 4 in the bottom of the 13th to tie it. They're in the 14th now, tied 9-9. Andre Ethier sprays a fly ball into left. High as he's got it. The Cincinnati Reds will go to the bottom of the 8th inning, 3 outs away from clinching a division title. Bars and sponsored by Klondike. What would you do for a Klondike bar? To the bottom of the 8th inning, the Reds with a 3-0 lead. And a fan base 41,000 strong in the ballpark this afternoon can sense it. The Reds edging ever closer to a win today and a division title for 2012. Jamie Wright, the new pitcher for Los Angeles. He is the fourth reliever used this afternoon. His first offering to Todd Frazier, lined off the wall in left. Frazier into second.
Boy, that line drive just turned left fielder Elian Herrera right around the wrong way. Turns left, turns right, over his head, and a double on the first pitch from Jamie Wright. You talk about one of the great stories. Jamie Wright, 38 years old, a non-roster invitee to spring training 7 straight years, and has never pitched in a postseason.
That's amazing.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Adding to the story, the fact that he's a former first rounder.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine a first rounder needing to win a job for 7 consecutive years as a non-roster player, as Jamie has? Here's Jay Bruce now with a runner in scoring position and nobody out in the eighth.
There are some things in baseball about which you just have to be empathetic, and that is one of them. I mean, you have to feel for Jamie Wright, who has done a terrific job for the Dodgers this year.
Put himself in a tough spot with the leadoff double aboard. And the pitch home to Jay Bruce misses down low, falling behind 2-0. Well, home run number 34 came from Jay in the 4th inning, adding to an impressive list as his total has increased every year since his rookie season. Two balls and no strikes from Jamie Wright to 2-1 now. Chris Heisey waiting on deck. Right out of the stretch, the 2-1 home to 3 balls and a strike now. You know, making that number even more impressive for Bruce as you take a look at Jonathan Broxton, the ex-Dodger, up in the Cincinnati bullpen, is the fact that he's the first player in Major League history to have hit at least 20 as a rookie and then improve on his total in each of the next 4 seasons, as you saw. And there's ball 4. And Jay Bruce is responsible for one of the 2 Burger King smooth plays of the game. Smooth swings, one from Jay Bruce in the 5th. And one from Brandon Phillips in the 7th. Runners at first and second now with nobody out. Here's Chris Heisey. You know, as we have focused, Tim, on the Reds the last couple of innings with this late lead and a magic number of 1, we certainly don't want to lose sight on the Dodgers scenario that you painted when we went on the air, and that was almost a win out with 11 left for that National League wild card.
If they lose this game, they will be 3 games behind the St. Louis Cardinals and a half game behind the Milwaukee Brewers for the 2nd wild card spot in the National League. Still reachable, but a lot has to happen for them to make it.
That is 3 out with what would be 10 left.
Dwindling down to a precious few for the Dodgers.
Making it even harder for LA is the fact that they don't have anything left with the teams they're trying to catch in the wild card race.
Right.
No opportunity to get that number lower head to head. 0-2 the count to Chris Heisey. Trying to bunt again with 2 strikes. He pulls back, and it's a ball and 2 strikes. Three in San Diego, and the Padres have been a much tougher out since the All-Star break, playing a great baseball there for Buddy Black. And then the Rockies, and then the Giants to round out the season. Check the count, 2 balls and a strike, 2-1 the count to Chris Heisey. And he gets the bunt down. Throw goes bad. Frazier scores. And it's 4-0 Reds.
Jamie Wright picks the ball up with his bare hand, is off balance when he makes the throw. That's the one thing about the Reds. They will make you hurry throws in the infield. All their runners are very fast, very alert. And that hurried throw goes into right field. The sacrifice successful, and an error on Jamie Wright.
Scored as a sacrifice and an error. No RBI credited on the play. And now Deoner Navarro will be intentionally walked to load the bases. Nobody out here. And as daunting as a 3-0 deficit may have been to the Dodgers, considering how their offense has gone, it's now 4-0 with a chance to get a whole lot worse.
And if Matt Latos, who has been brilliant, can't do it, the Reds have the best bullpen in the National League.
A lot of conspiring factors here against the Dodgers.
If not in baseball.
So bases are loaded now after the intentional walk, and it'll be Zach Cozart. Bruce, Heisey, and Navarro aboard. A run in, nobody out.
You won't see an infield playing in any more in than the Dodgers are right now. Way in. You can understand Don Mattingly's thinking right here. You almost need a double play of some kind with home for the first out. That's why the infield is in abnormally, really.
Well, you are spot on with that. You see Hanley Ramirez and Mark Ellis, the middle infielders, playing on the grass. It's one thing to bring a third baseman in off the dirt, but boy, the middle infielders are inordinately shallow.
Yeah.
Got a pinch hitter waiting on deck for the Reds. Again, nobody out with the bases loaded. The pitch home to Cozart misses outside. So what had been one of the few functional, reliable elements of the Dodgers here in September, and that is the bullpen, has failed Don Mattingly on this afternoon. Two balls and a strike. The count to Zach Cozart. A base hit will bring in at least one more. Bruce scores. Here's Heisey being waved around without a throw. And the Reds have broken it open in the 8th. Well, it's what the sold-out crowd came to see last night. It's what the sold-out crowd came to see today. And it's what fans in this area have been waiting for quite a while. Don Mattingly out to make another change. Still nobody out in the 8th. We'll be right back. The Brennomaniacs reveling in what looks like a big day here for the Reds. On top 6-0 with a magic number of 1. Dodgers go to the bullpen for rookie right-hander Josh Wall. Wall, pardon the pun, is rather up against it as Henry Rodriguez pinch hits with nobody out. 3 runs in, 2 runners aboard here in the last of the 8th. Chopper to shortstop. Ramirez to Ellis, and they're able to double off Rodriguez. There are 2 away. You know, we made mention getting into that last break that fans here in Cincinnati have been waiting for this kind of thing, this kind of day for a while. Yes, they won the division in 2010, but it was a quick ouster, a sweep suffered at the hands of the Phillies, one that included a postseason perfect game by Roy Halladay. Ken Rosenthal, I believe that the Reds players and those that you've spoken to in particular feel like their fate may be a little different this time around.
Absolutely, Matt. I asked Jay Bruce about the difference between this team and the 2010 team yesterday, and he said the comparison is not even close. He said the 2010 team was a younger group, kind of played with its hair on fire, didn't understand what it was doing. This team, after going through that, after underachieving last season, has a full understanding and is much better equipped to make a serious run in the postseason.
They have made a strong play all year for the best record in the National League, and I think I misspoke there a moment ago. Not a perfect game. Halladay's perfect game came during the regular season. A no-hitter in the postseason of 2010. And the Reds, to Ken's point, hope there were lessons learned 2 years ago. 1-1 to Brandon Phillips.
I think they're better in all facets of the game. Their bullpen's better. Their starters are better. They're a faster club. They're a better defensive club this year. They're a very dangerous team to face in the playoffs. No doubt.
2-1. Well, now there's 6-run lead, Tim. It might be the exact situation Chris Spire was hoping for.
You're right.
To get his closers some work.
The perfect situation to bring Chapman into a game without any stress.
Pitch in the dirt that Matt Trainer handles, and it's 3 balls and a strike from Josh Wall to Brandon Phillips. So on the agenda here for the postseason, getting into it at least, you get your rotation set up, get Joey Votto swinging the bat well, get Aroldis Chapman over the shoulder fatigue, and maybe most importantly, get Dusty Baker back into the dugout. In fact, that's not a maybe at all. They want their skipper back. A strike to Brandon Phillips. First 3 batters to come to the plate in the 8th inning all scored. And all that damage on Jamie Wright's line today. Ball 4. Third walk of the inning. Quick reminder, college football coming up next on Fox. Number 15 Kansas State in Norman to take on the number 6 Oklahoma Sooners. Drew Stubbs now with runners at the corners. If this were another circumstance on a Saturday afternoon with the weather as gorgeous as it's been all day and the home team up comfortably, I don't think we'd be looking at 41,000 plus still sticking around.
They're staying for the celebration.
Oh, they want to see those red jerseys flowing. We're going to the ninth, 3 outs away from a division title in Cincinnati. Sold out crowd on this Saturday afternoon. They're 3 outs away from watching their Reds wrap up the National League Central Division. And they're also going to see one of their heroes, Aroldis Chapman, will make his first appearance since September 10th. As we mentioned earlier, just the scenario that Chris Spire was hoping for to enable him to use his closer in what you called, Tim, a non-pressure situation and just slowly re-indoctrinate his work on the mound. They get Matt Kemp, Adrian Gonzalez, and Hanley Ramirez.
Yeah, the one thing you don't want to do if you're Aroldis Chapman is to be too cautious. It's got to be that happy medium. You're not going to go all out. You're not going to be cautious.
Matt Kemp on a couple of hops out to shortstop for Zach Cozart, and the Reds are 2 outs away from a division crown.
That's the idea if you're a Reds fan, that you want out of Aroldis Chapman.
As we welcome those of you who just watched the Detroit Tigers finish off their 8-0 shutout to get to within a game of the AL Central Division leaders. We talk about the big picture here. It's been Matt Latos, who was brilliant, 8 shutout innings. Home runs this afternoon by Brandon Phillips and Jay Bruce. The 3-run 8th really padded what was already a comfortable lead against a Dodger lineup that has not had a base runner past first this afternoon. A ball and no strikes, the count to Adrian Gonzalez. The Washington Nationals wrapped up a postseason clinch earlier this week. A win here tonight, and the Cincinnati Reds will become the first team to clinch a division title. If you're wondering how the first teams to clinch do in their quest to go on and win the World Series, it's far from automatic. The last time it happened was 1998. The Yankees were the first to clinch the AL East. They won the World Series that year.
Too far to go. That's the reason. Have to win 11 games to win the World Championship. Prior to 1969, you had to win 4.
Boy, it's awfully tough to get on that roll and stay hot when you're the first team to clinch. The Yankees were the last to do it, and the Yankees were involved in an absolutely wild day of baseball this afternoon in the Bronx. We check in with Greg Amsinger for an A's-Yankees update.
Oh, Matt, what a game after rookie Melky Mesa botched rounding third base, couldn't score. This error from Brandon Moss would end the night in the Bronx. 10-9 the final in 14. The Yanks remain 1 game up with the O's in the AL East. Matty, back to you.
Boy, you hope that if you're looking at it from the Oakland A's perspective, that that's not the point at which they fall off the cliff. That could be a tough one to come back from for Bob Melvin and the Oakland A's. Baltimore,
because even though they've lost up to now, they haven't played badly in those losses. Just haven't hit.
Next offering home to Hanley Ramirez is in for a strike. A reminder for those of you tuning in for Fox College Saturday with Aaron Andrews, Eddie George, and Joey Harrington. We'll get you there immediately upon the conclusion of the Reds and Dodgers. A ball and 2 strikes.
This is what they want out of Chapman, and I'm sure that Brian Price has talked to Aroldis and told him 100's not necessary today. He has not hit 100 yet. And that makes so much sense. And Brian Price, the Cincinnati pitching coach, has so much sense. He's a good man.
Chapman's average fastball velocity in his last outing back on September 10th was 94 miles an hour. And at that point, it was a concern. But to your point today, Tim, 94 is a little different than it was back on the 10th.
Right.
Over the middle. Phillips to Cozart. Back to Votto. And the Cincinnati Reds are National League Central Division champs. A 6-0 shutout win for Matt Latos and Aroldis Chapman. The Reds have clinched the National League Central. For additional coverage of Cincinnati's celebration, please tune in to Fox Sports Ohio. Congratulations to the Cincinnati Reds, division champs in the NL Central for 2012. That's all from Cincinnati. Up next, Fox College Saturday. We'll send it out to Aaron Andrews in our Los Angeles studios.